Something brought you here, and it's not random. There's a part of you that wants to understand how things really work. What you're about to hear can shift how you think. Not softer, not simpler, sharper. And when your thinking becomes sharp, it doesn't just solve problems, it changes how you deal with people. Now think about this. Have you ever watched someone stay completely steady while everyone else panics? While others rush, they pause. While others react, they calculate. And somehow, they always end up ahead. And the strange part is, they're not doing more than everyone else. It feels almost unsettling, like they understand a layer of reality most people never notice. That's not luck. It's not talent either. It's a way of thinking that changes how you see power, people, and control itself. And once you start seeing through that lens, you can't unsee it. That's where this gets serious. Because the same mental tools that can make you precise, calm, and respected can also pull you in a darker direction without you realizing it. This is the kind of thinking often tied to Niccolò Machiavelli, not the soft version you hear online, but the real way influence works. And before you go further, you need to be clear on one thing. This path doesn't just change what you achieve, it changes who you become. But there's one part of this most people don't realize until it's already too late. This isn't dangerous because of the ideas, it's dangerous because of what they slowly turn you into. The same thinking that makes you sharp and powerful can quietly make you cold and distant. The worst part is, it feels like progress. You start explaining less, listening less, and choosing results over people without even noticing. And that's the real line. This was never about intelligence, it's about control. The ability to stay human while becoming powerful is what separates strength from something far more dangerous. Intelligence isn't about how much you know, it's about how you think, how you break things down, and how you respond when things don't go your way. It's the system behind every decision. Before we go further, drop this affirmation in comments. I control how I think. Because what you're about to see are a few powerful thinking patterns, not obvious ones, but the kind that change how you handle problems, understand people, and stay steady under pressure. And one of these will feel uncomfortable because it exposes something you've probably been ignoring. Number 1. Reverse thinking. Win by eliminating what breaks you. Most people chase winning. They think doing more will fix everything. But smart people do something different first. They look for what can go wrong. They ask, what can mess this up? Then they deal with that first. When problems are removed early, success becomes easier without forcing it. That shift alone changes how you move. Think about it in real life. If someone wants a strong relationship, they focus on being better, doing more, saying the right things. But they ignore what actually destroys relationships: poor communication, ignoring feelings, and not giving time. Remove those, and the relationship naturally becomes stronger. Same with money, same with decisions, same with life. This way of thinking forces you to look at what others avoid. It's not negative, it's precise. You're not expecting things to go wrong, you're making sure they don't. And this single shift is what separates controlled thinkers from reactive ones. And once you start operating like this, you stop guessing, you stop hoping things work out. You begin to move with clarity, because you've already taken away what could have taken you down. But solving problems isn't enough. You also need to question how you think. Number 2, challenging your own truth before others do. Right now, you're holding on to beliefs that feel completely solid, things you're sure about, the way people act, how the world works, even who you think you are. But here's the uncomfortable part. Most of those beliefs have never really been tested. They've just been repeated enough times that they feel true. This way of thinking forces you to do something most people avoid, And this is where most people quietly limit their own growth. It asks you to turn against your own ideas and question them properly, not in a weak way, not just to doubt everything, but to actually challenge them with the strongest possible argument on the other side. Ask yourself this, and don't answer it too quickly. If someone strongly disagreed with you, what would they use to challenge you? Not the easy version, the strongest, most uncomfortable version. If you can't answer that, then you don't really understand your own belief, you're just used to it. And that's where mistakes begin. Because when your thinking isn't tested, it becomes rigid. You stop seeing clearly. You defend instead of understanding. But when you start breaking your own ideas apart, something different happens. You feel uncertain at first, even a little unstable. But that's not weakness, that's growth. You're clearing out what's false, so something stronger can take its place. Over time, this builds a different kind of confidence. Not loud, not forced, but steady. Because now, you don't just believe something, you actually understand why it holds up. And even if you question your ideas, there's still one more problem most people miss. Number 3, mastering your mind's learning system. Two people can hear the same idea at the same time and walk away with completely different results. One forgets it within a day, the other uses it and changes how they act. That difference isn't luck, and it's not about who's smarter. And once you see why, it changes how you approach every piece of information after this. It comes down to how they take in and work with information. This second way of thinking is about understanding your own mind while you learn. Not just what you learn, but how it actually sticks. Most people keep watching and reading more, hoping it will fix things, but nothing changes because they never check how they actually learn. Pay attention to yourself for a moment. When do you actually understand things clearly? Is it when you read quietly, when you hear someone explain it, or when you try it yourself? And more importantly, how much of it do you still remember days later when it actually matters? That gap right there is where most people lose progress, and almost no one notices it while it's happening. This way of thinking forces you to slow down and study your own patterns. You start noticing what works for you and what doesn't. You stop collecting information and start using it properly. And once that shift happens, everything changes. You don't need more content. You need better control over how you learn. Because when you understand how your mind takes in and holds on to ideas, you stop moving in circles and start moving forward with purpose. Number 4, training yourself for the worst before it happens. Before anything important happens, most people picture everything going perfectly. They imagine success, smooth progress, things falling into place. It feels good, but it leaves them exposed. Because when something goes wrong, and it always does, they don't know how to handle it. This way of thinking does the opposite. And it's uncomfortable at first. That's why most people never build it. Instead of running toward the best outcome first, you stop and face the worst realistic one. Not to scare yourself, but to prepare. You ask, what is the worst real situation that can happen here? What would I lose? What would I actually do in that moment? And you sit with it until it feels real. That changes something inside you. And once it changes, you don't react the same way again. Because now, when pressure shows up, it's not new. You've already seen it in your mind. You've already thought through your response, so instead of freezing, you move calmly, clearly. And there's another effect most people don't expect. Smaller problems stop shaking you. Things that used to feel overwhelming lose their weight, because compared to what you've already prepared for, they don't seem as serious anymore. But when people skip this step, they build false confidence. Everything feels under control until it isn't. And when reality breaks that picture, they struggle to recover. Not because they're weak, but because they were unprepared. Facing the worst doesn't make you negative, it makes you steady when it matters most. Number 5. Becoming the person who acts without forcing it. There's a limit to how far discipline can take you. You can push yourself for a while, force actions, stay consistent for days or even weeks, but sooner or later, that effort starts to wear down. You've felt it before. The days when you don't feel like doing anything, when even simple tasks feel heavy, that's where most people fall off, because they've been relying only on effort. This way of thinking changes the focus completely. Instead of forcing actions again and again, you start building the kind of identity where those actions feel natural. Think about the difference. One person has to fight themselves every morning just to stay consistent. Another person does the same thing without that internal struggle, because it's part of who they are. They don't debate it. They don't negotiate with themselves. It just feels normal. That's the shift. And once it clicks, forcing yourself stops being necessary. You stop asking, "How do I make myself do this?" and start asking, "Who do I need to become so this is automatic?" And the way you build that is simple, but not easy. Every small action you take slowly builds who you are. When you stay focused, instead of getting distracted, you're reinforcing that identity. When you stay calm under pressure, you're shaping how you see yourself. Over time, those small votes stack up until the behavior no longer feels forced. It becomes part of you. And once that happens, consistency is no longer a struggle. It's just how you operate. But this is where things start to shift in a way most people don't expect. At this point, you've seen 5 ways of thinking that most people never fully develop. You know how to spot what could break you before it happens. You understand how to actually learn instead of just collecting ideas. You can question your own beliefs instead of blindly defending them. You've seen how to prepare for pressure before it hits, and how to build an identity that doesn't fall apart when things get hard. Even applying a few of these can change how you move, how you decide, how you handle situations that used to throw you off. But there's something people don't talk about. The same thinking that helps you grow can also slowly change you in a bad way if you're not careful. This next part is uncomfortable, but it matters more than everything we've covered so far. Because this is what happens when someone becomes sharper, but forgets to stay balanced. Number 1, growing impatience. It doesn't start in a loud or obvious way. It builds slowly, almost quietly, until one day you notice something feels different. You begin to see gaps in how people think. The rushed conclusions, the weak reasoning, the way decisions are made without real thought behind them. At first, you try to engage. You explain things more clearly. You ask better questions. You try to help others see what you're seeing, but it doesn't always land. And this is where the shift quietly begins. People misunderstand, or they push back, or they just go back to their old patterns right after agreeing with you. And over time, something shifts inside you. You stop trying as much. Not because you're angry, but because it feels pointless. You stop trying to move with people and start leaving them behind. It feels efficient, like you're saving time and energy. But that feeling is misleading. What's actually happening is a slow loss of patience. And patience isn't weakness. It's what allows you to connect, to guide, to bring people along, instead of leaving them behind. Without it, you may move faster, but you also move alone. The more this grows, the less you explain, the less you listen, and the easier it becomes to dismiss others completely. It feels like clarity, but it's distance. And once that distance becomes normal, it's much harder to close it again. Number 2, silent isolation. This one doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel dramatic. it just slowly becomes your normal. As your thinking sharpens, the way you relate to people begins to shift. Conversations that once felt interesting start to feel surface level. You notice patterns, predict what someone will say before they finish, and the interaction loses its depth for you. At first, you brush it off. You tell yourself you're just focused, that you don't have time for things that don't add value. So you start pulling back a little. You speak less. You engage less. You're still around people, but something is missing. You're there physically, not mentally, and the more this repeats, the easier it becomes to stay in your own head. It feels controlled, clean, almost peaceful, but there's another side to it. The less you connect, the less you understand how people actually feel and respond in real situations. That gap keeps growing, and you stop noticing it because it feels normal now. What you call focus can quietly turn into isolation, and the dangerous part is how easy it is to justify. You tell yourself you're just avoiding noise, just protecting your time, just staying disciplined. But there's a version of this where you're not choosing distance, you're getting used to it. Real strength doesn't come from stepping away from people completely. It comes from being able to stay connected without losing your clarity. If that connection disappears, your thinking may stay sharp, but it loses something essential, and that loss shows up later, when it matters most. Number 3. Losing your sense of understanding. As you keep improving, something else begins to fade, without you noticing it right away. You stop remembering what it felt like to not understand things. The confusion, the slow progress, the mistakes you used to make, they become distant, and because of that, your expectations start to change. You begin to assume others should see things as quickly as you do now. When they don't, it creates a quiet reaction inside you. Not always anger, something colder, a kind of silent judgment. You see the same errors you once made, but instead of relating to them, you distance yourself from them. And that's where the real problem begins. This is the point where clarity starts turning into distance. Because when that distance grows, your ability to truly understand people starts to weaken. You can still observe them. You can read patterns, predict behavior, even explain why they do what they do. But understanding is different from observation. Understanding requires remembering what it feels like to be in their position. And once that connection fades, your thinking becomes incomplete. You may feel sharper, but you're missing something important. Decisions start to lose depth because they're no longer grounded in real human perspective. You're analyzing from the outside instead of relating from the inside, and over time, that gap creates blind spots you can't easily see. You didn't become less smart, you just stopped relating to people. And without that, even the smartest thinking starts to drift in the wrong direction. Number 4. The feedback trap. This is where things become truly risky, because it feels like success, while it's actually the start of decline. As your thinking improves, and you start making better decisions, people begin to treat you differently. They trust your judgment more, they question you less, they stop pushing back the way they used to. At first, this feels like respect. It feels like you've reached a level where you don't need correction anymore. But that's not what's happening. What's really happening is that people are holding back. Maybe they think you already know better. Maybe they don't want to argue. Maybe the last few times they challenged you, you had an answer for everything, so they stopped trying. And your brain starts thinking that silence means you are correct. That's the trap. And almost everyone falls into it without realizing, because without resistance, your thinking stops being tested. And when thinking isn't tested, it slowly becomes weaker, even if it feels sharp on the surface. You start trusting your own view too much without realizing where the gaps are forming. The environment around you becomes comfortable, but not honest. And that's one of the most dangerous places to operate from. Growth needs friction. Without it, your thinking feels sharp but becomes fragile. It needs people who are willing to point out what you don't see, even when it's uncomfortable. If that disappears, your progress doesn't just slow down, it starts moving in the wrong direction. Not all at once, but quietly, step by step. And by the time you notice it, the mistakes are already bigger than they should have been. Now, here's what actually keeps you from falling into all of this. Number 1. Look for honest feedback. If you want to avoid everything we just talked about, you can't wait for honesty to come to you. You have to go after it directly. Because most people won't tell you the full truth on their own, especially once they see you as someone who's confident or capable. They soften their words. They hold things back. They say what sounds safe instead of what's actually useful. So you have to change how you ask. Not broad questions that lead nowhere, but direct ones that make it hard to avoid the truth. Ask things like, "What am I getting wrong right now?" Or, "What would you do differently if you were in my place?" Then comes the part most people fail at: how you respond. You don't defend. You don't explain right away. You don't try to prove your point. You listen, even if it feels uncomfortable. Because that discomfort is where the value is. It shows you something you couldn't see on your own. You also need the right kind of people around you. Not people who argue just to argue, but people who can actually spot your blind spots and are honest enough to point them out. And when you find those people, you make it clear that truth is safe with you. You don't punish it. You don't shut it down. You show that you value it. Because once people feel like they can speak honestly around you, your thinking stays sharp in the right way. Without that, you're just trusting yourself more and more, without knowing where you're wrong. Number 2, stay grounded in reality. There's a point where your thinking becomes so structured, so sharp, that you start trusting your own ideas more than what's actually happening in front of you. That's where problems begin. Because no matter how strong your reasoning is, it's still just a model of reality, not reality itself. And if you don't test it, it slowly drifts away from what's true. The only way to stay accurate is to stay connected to real outcomes, not what sounds right, not what feels logical, but what actually works when you act on it. That means you don't just sit and think, you step into situations, make decisions, and watch the results closely. You adjust when something doesn't match what you expected. You stay flexible instead of forcing your ideas to fit. This keeps your thinking honest. It keeps you grounded. Because the moment you start believing your mind is always right, you stop learning. And when learning stops, decline starts, even if it's not obvious at first. The strongest thinkers don't protect their ideas, they test them. They're willing to be wrong in small ways, so they don't fail in big ways later. That takes discipline, but a different kind. Not pushing harder, but staying real. Staying connected to what actually happens, not just what should happen in your head. Number 3, set your code before it's tested. There will come a point where your skills, your clarity, and your influence start to grow. And when that happens, your choices begin to carry more weight, more impact, more consequence. That's where many people lose control, not because they didn't know what to do, but because they never decided who they were going to be before the pressure showed up. When things get difficult, you don't rise to your best intentions. You fall back to your default habits. That's why this has to be decided early. You need a clear set of personal rules that guide how you act, especially when it would be easier not to follow them. Ask yourself simple but serious questions. What are you not willing to do, even if it gets you ahead faster? What lines don't get crossed, no matter what you gain from it? How do you treat people when there's nothing to gain from them? These answers become your anchor, because when situations get messy, and they will, you won't have time to think everything through from scratch. You'll act based on what you've already accepted as right or wrong. Without that, it becomes easy to justify small compromises, and those small choices add up. One decision at a time, you start moving away from who you thought you were. But when your code is clear, your actions stay consistent, even under pressure. You don't have to guess. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. You already know where you stand. And that clarity protects you from becoming something you never intended to be. Number 4. Understand clearly, but choose restraint. As your awareness grows, you begin to notice things about people that most others miss. You see what drives them, what they fear, what they respond to, without even realizing it themselves. That kind of understanding is powerful. It gives you the ability to guide conversations, influence decisions, and shape outcomes in ways that feel almost effortless. But this is also where the line appears. Because once you can see those patterns, you have two options. You can use that understanding to support people, to lead them in a way that benefits everyone involved, or you can use it to control situations for your own advantage. And the second option often feels easier, faster, more effective in the short term, but it comes at a cost. When you start using people instead of working with them, something changes. Trust begins to weaken, even if it's not obvious right away. Relationships lose depth. You get results, but they don't last. And over time, you find yourself surrounded by people who don't really know you, or worse, don't fully trust you. Real strength isn't about controlling others. It's about having the ability to do it, and choosing not to. That choice builds something stronger than quick wins. It builds trust, respect, and long-term influence that doesn't need to be forced. Because when people feel understood instead of used, they stay, they support, they grow with you, and that's the kind of power that lasts. Now everything comes down to this. At this point, two people can learn the same things. One uses it to grow and stay balanced. The other uses it and slowly disconnects from people. Same knowledge, but different choices lead to different lives. And the difference doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from small choices, repeated again and again, shaping who you become over time. So understand this clearly. Sharpened thinking gives you speed, clarity, and control, but without awareness, it slowly turns against you. And this is where everything you've heard either holds or breaks. You stop questioning yourself, lose balance, and what once made you better starts making you distant and rigid. The real goal isn't just to think better, it's to stay human while doing it. Otherwise, progress quietly becomes your trap. If even one idea here made you pause and rethink something, don't ignore that signal. Pass it on to someone who needs it right now. And if you want more content that actually reshapes how you think, not just how you feel, stay close, because this is where that shift happens.